Well, hi, I'm Carl and welcome to Adventures in Camping. In the last video, I discussed traveling cross-country, whether level or whether through terrain, and the backpacks and your paces. But there's another thing that you need to think about for your distance. If you're using a map and you're looking at that map and making your measurement, and if you're using the distance guide on the map and a protractor to determine your distance, you might be wrong and you might fall short and then really be lost. Today I'm going to show you that difference. Oh, by the way, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you'll know when I put out a new video, and let's get to it. Now this is the ravine that I hiked through in the last video. I'm going to show you the difference between what the map says, or at least what you assume the map says or is, to reality. Now I'm going to wrap this rope around here. I'm going to start with a clove hitch, and then I'm going to put 2 half hitches on it and stretch it across. Once I've done that, I'll have to come back, tie a trucker's hitch in it. Now, one thing that I like to do, and I learned this a while back, was to tie a modified trucker's hitch. And let me show you what that is. With a trucker's hitch, usually you just tie a loop into the rope and then you pass the rope back through that. The problem with that is, once you put a bunch of tension on that, it makes it difficult to get the rope untied. I didn't put a lot of tension on this, so it came out easily. Now in a few minutes, we're going to look at a topographical map, and I'm going to show you some important things that you need to look at and know about when you're using a topographical map. Stick with me and we'll get to it in a few minutes. So with what I call the modified trucker's hitch, is I put a prusik knot into it and then I pass the rope through it rather than through a loop that I've tied into it. This way I have something that I can get it back out. Also, the beauty of this is if I need to, I can slide that forwards and backwards to adjust for the length. So now I can pass that end through this loop and then tighten it up, put pressure on it, and I have something that will hold, will do what I need it to do, and I don't have to fight with getting that loop out that I tied into it. So now I've returned and I've untied it, and I'm putting my modified trucker's hitch so I can get this line going across the ravine tight. Now, as you can see, I have the rope stretched across the ravine and it's relatively level. Not perfectly, because the string that it's riding on is not perfectly level, but I think it's close enough. You'll get the idea. So now, as you can see, there she goes all the way. On the other side of the ravine, you see the yellow flag that I posted, so you see where the rope goes to that tree where we're relatively level. Now I'm in the swamp at the bottom of the ravine, but I'll show you the difference between where I am and where the rope is, and that's something you have to take into account. So here I am, and that is level. So you see the distance between that and me? I am 5'9". This is a rough estimate. And that's 4 foot. That's about 9 to 10 foot difference. Okay? So, but don't just add 9 to 10 feet to your travels, because you're going down and back up again. Now I have taken the rope down and I have stretched it along the path. This is the beginning point, and I'm going to count my paces up the path until I get to the other end. Just so you know, this is the end point that I'm going to and returning from. My paces going down the trail were 19, which worked out to 72 feet. And so you know, I did take into account where I had to make those horizontal steps. I did not count those because I went horizontal. My paces through the ravine were 35, which worked out to 84 feet. So now we have about a 12-foot difference. Now remember, the ravine was about 10 feet. So, you know, that doesn't sound too bad, but we're only traveling in a straight line 72 feet. So you multiply that over and over and over and over and over, and it's going to get you really off. There's something that I do need to mention when you're using a map that's very, very important. You need to orient your map. Use your compass, find north. Even if you don't use declination, you need to find north and orient your map. Turn your map on a flat surface to where north is. Even if you're not using declination, because if you don't, you're going to get lost. You have to take into account those variances in terrain. That's why when you look at a topographical map, it has all those little brown lines and those numbers on it. They represent that terrain, those terrain features. So you need to take that into account when you're traveling from one place to another. So now you're going to see these two sets of numbers. Between those numbers, you're going to have to add the lines to determine how many lines there are, which in increments of 10 will tell you how steep this is. The closer the lines are together, the steeper the terrain. Now this is more your standard map. You notice it has a few lines. It's telling you that there is some hills there, but it nowhere near prepares you for what you may be in for. Okay, so there's the basics and determining what you're going to run into when you go cross country. You got to keep in mind that even though you may measure half mile, it may be a mile worth of walking. So remember that. Well, thanks for watching. Subscribe, hit the bell icon so you know when I put out a new video. And be ready or be removed from the gene pool. Y'all come back now, you hear? So check out one of these videos that I'm posting.